Schools run on a system that was designed over a century ago to educate about 5% of the young men in our society past the 8th grade. That system now is being asked to educate 100% of the men and 100% of the women in our society, and it's not designed to do that. So it's not that the system is broken, it's obsolete. So we need to recreate public schools in a way that will meet the needs of all kids. I really strongly believe that student-led conferences are a great vehicle to get parents to understand ways that they can support their child, because they'll come and listen to the child. And they will come to school if it's their child talking about their education and not just being blamed when the kid acts out in class. You know, we want to be there, listen to what our son has to say or our daughter has to say about their education, about their schooling. And then the parents learn from that a lot about their child they didn't know.
Doing a student-led conference pointed out to me how negative parent conferences are in general. You don't tend to call a parent up and say, you know, can you come in, I want to have a meeting with you, your kid is awesome. You know, we call them and tell them that. Like I try to, for every negative call I have to give to a parent, like so-and-so cut today or whatever, I try 2 weeks later to call them back and say, you know, they've been coming to class every day, it's great. But you don't sit down for 45 minutes with a, let me tell you all the wonderful things. It just doesn't happen in the traditional model. Luis was referred to me for the Emergent Literacy SIFE program near the end of the first semester of this year. His English teacher felt that his reading and writing was not adequate for the English 10 class and that he was sort of drowning and just tried to fly under the radar. You know, he would be, you know, sort of into himself, and it was obvious he was struggling. Through Project Excel, we had learned about this student-led conference idea, and I felt like it was something I had to do, and I'll do it. Somebody asked me to do something at work, I do it. And it blew me away. So I asked Luis if he wanted to do this, and he said sure. And we sat down and talked about what he wanted to show. I just said, what things in here have you done that you're proud of? So we started listing them. And I said, in a conference with your mom, we also have to talk about your goals. That's something you have to include, and community service, since that's a graduation requirement. So I said, except for that, you pick what you want to do. And he did. So then we set up like things that he wanted to highlight with it. I guided him somewhat.
En mis metas para ser alguien, quiero aprender más inglés, poder llegar al nivel de los demás estudiantes, poder estar en las demás clases, aprender mejor y hacer los servicios comunitarios.
It's mandatory that the student does it, okay? And if the parents are unable or unwilling to participate, then the student goes to another adult that's significant to them. So then it can be a coach, gym teacher, a pastor in the church, can be anybody. So the students can't get out of it.
Because he was presenting this to his mother, I think he really thought about it in a much more adult and serious way, really focusing on not just English in general, but reading and writing, and the community service. What was great for me was finding out that, not that my word doesn't matter, because I think that I'm a role model for them and all that, but that what I think a student will do, or a student needs, or a student wants, isn't what they necessarily want.
Like for all students, it's a way for them to take ownership of their learning, and it's a way to them to explain it publicly. It's about developing communication skills. And for the English learner, developing communication skills can be much more challenging. As they're learning the language, they tend to be reticent about coming out publicly and speaking, all right? And this is one time where they're going to have to. Now, the audience is friendly. It's a friendly teacher. It's a friendly parents, but it's beginning to set the tone for them to own their learning, okay, in a way that doesn't exist traditionally. They are going to own it. They're going to present it. They're going to set goals for what they want to learn. They're going to reflect on work that they've done. And all of that just will help them to become better communicators, and English learners need a strong focus on becoming better communicators.
We met a few times in class, you know, Luis and I separately, just talking about what he wanted to do and the process, what order it would be. So he wrote down what he wanted to cover as far as, you know, showing different things. And I said, the first thing you have to do is tell your mother what we're doing, because she's going to think, you know, she's going to stare at me and ask me questions. And I said, you have to explain what the conference is and that you're in charge. And I think one thing about doing it here is he did the seating, because these two tables are normally together. So he said, no, I want to move that table there. And then he said, and I said to him, where do you want me to sit? Where do you want your mother to sit? And he wanted us to be next to each other, and I put my water there. He said, no, he wanted her there. So he really, I think he felt really in charge.
The students begin to understand that they own their education. It's not a teacher's education, it's not their parents', it's their education. And they begin to realize that they have charge of things in their education, and they start to put them in place. We want them to leave high school as being in charge of their learning. And this is a step on the road to really helping them being in charge of their learning.
It's so empowering for him, and it was the first one that we had also, it blew me away. So I said, I want to keep doing these. The first student was talking about it to everybody. My mom cried, it was awesome, and my colleagues who I told about it were saying to him the next day, I heard you did great, you hit it out of the ballpark. And he stood proud, I mean literally stood proud. And then Luis said, I said, who else would like to do one? Luis said he would. And he was a little nervous, but he took more charge, I think, because he had seen what the first student had done, and they had talked about it, with each other. And the other guy said, it's so easy, it's so easy.
Buenas felicitaciones para que sigas adelante. Y gracias, su profesora, por ayudar a mi hijo. Muchas gracias, Dios le va a agradecer. Estoy como asombrada, porque cuando comenzó high school, me estaba dando problemas, que estaba cortando clases. Ahora al ver que él ha hecho eso, estoy como que no sé si estoy viendo bien o estoy mal, pero como un sueño. Me siento asombrada.
Through the process, they get practice and experience in public speaking. It helps to build their esteem, to know that they can speak publicly and be comfortable in an environment, either in English or in their native language. And all of that helps them to become better communicators as they get older. And it really does help to build their self-esteem. And it helps to build the esteem of the parents, too, when they're there. The domino effect of this is we end up with a better educated workforce. We end up with students with a society that has higher self-esteem. We have a society that the benefits to the society in the long run greatly outweigh the cost of doing this, because the cost is virtually nothing.
I'm always surprised at what I learn as a teacher. That I feel like I'm learning as much or more than they are, but just seeing sort of this blossoming young adult emerging from this student and the excitement he had, really proud of him. I'm really proud of him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice.